Welcome to MS Unmasked, Our Journey and Beyond, a podcast where hosts Justine Martin and Allyson Brown share their personal experiences, insights and practical advice on navigating life with multiple sclerosis. Each week they delve into topics such as self-care, nutrition, exercise, sleep and symptom management. Join them as they explore the physical, emotional and mental aspects of living with MS, providing a supportive community for listeners touched by this condition. Get ready to be inspired and empowered on this incredible journey through MS Unmasked, Our Journey and Beyond.
Welcome back, listeners, to the MS Unmasked podcast. Today, I've got co-host Allyson with me. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Justine. How are you?
Yeah, good. Now, we're actually recording this a couple of days earlier than what we normally would, being World MS Day today.
Yay! Happy World MS Day, everyone.
Yeah. But wouldn't it be bloody nice if there was no such thing as a World MS Day?
It would be good if it was World used to have MS Day, like that used to be a thing, but it's not anymore. But, I guess we just have to go with the fact that it is out there, it is increasing, and, we've got a community of people now that we can support each other because it's a pretty tough road sometimes, isn't it?
It is. And we've just done a webinar together this morning. Do you want to tell the listeners what that was all about, Allyson?
Oh, look, it was just our top 5 tips for living well with MS, because sometimes it's pretty hard to navigate by yourself. And I guess over the years, we've had our trials and tribulations, haven't we, Justine?
Yeah.
But we've learnt a lot through that process, and, to be able to share that information with people and just try to, help them to live their best life is a really good thing.
And if you would like a copy of this morning's webinar, it will be available on my YouTube channel. I'm presuming you're putting it up on yours as well.
Of course I will.
Yeah. So mine is Justine Martin
frozen there,
Corporation, and Allyson's is...
Oh, you back?
I'm back.
Yeah, there you are.
What's your... what's the word? Geez, I'm having some brain farts at the moment. Where? Not website. What am I looking for? Oh, YouTube channel.
What's my YouTube channel? I can't even tell you, to be honest. It's something to do with everheal. So I'll have to get you the link.
Pride today. So it'll be in the bio, folks, when you're reading this. But it'll definitely be on Justine Martin Corporation's YouTube channel there, and all Allyson's links are on that as well. So you can contact either one of us if you have any questions about that. So we are going to go through each week and talk about different topics, but I think today we were just going to do a little bit more of an introduction on ourselves.
Yeah. So you already mentioned the Justine Martin Corporation. Tell us about that. Tell us about your big, wide world, amazing achievements and how that kind of came about.
Well, I was told back in, when was it? April 2011 that I would never be able to work again by a medical professional. And look, he was right to a certain degree. I don't want to say that he was fully wrong because he wasn't. But he turned around and told me that I couldn't work anymore. Now, he was right. I couldn't work in the job that I had anymore. And then I contacted an employment service and asked them what I could, still do work-wise. And they told me there wasn't enough money or time to retrain me. And, that's devastating news from that. What he should have said was that, don't give up, modify, try and learn to your best, capacity of what you can. And learning may be different for you now. And it is different for me. So
I think we can probably all agree with that. Like our brains do change. Honestly, literally the physiology of our brains do change from various relapses and various lesions. So of course we're going to just have to adapt because
But not just
It doesn't work the same way anymore, right?
no, but not just that, old age. The older you get, the harder it is to learn anyway. But
That's right. When you combine that with MS, you've got a whole concoction of badness.
But you can teach an old dog new tricks. So I'm telling you now, because I've totally retrained. But it has taken a bloody long time to do it. But in that course of time, he told me to find a hobby. That was probably the one good piece of advice that he actually told me. And I went and learned how to paint. And from painting, I now own and run 7 businesses. Now, that might sound really, really busy. And look, it is busy. But I do structure my day around what my body's doing and my mind's doing and what my vision's doing at the moment, because my vision's playing up again. I mean, I'm sitting here recording this vlogcast in my office chair, which we did this morning. I never sit in here unless I'm doing a webinar. I find it the most uncomfortable place to be for my body.
I know, right? I'm in the same boat. I've been sitting in this chair too.
Long today, and I know I'm going to pay for it later on. I generally do most of my business in my lounge room. On my lounge, got a beautiful, comfy electric reclining lounge that doesn't put pressure on my legs and doesn't put pressure on my spine and my hips and everywhere else in my body, and have my laptop on my lap. Which is my laptop's quite warm, so it keeps my legs warm because I'm always cold to the bone. Especially during winter. I live in Victoria, they said. So, I started learning how to paint, and then 6 months after learning how to paint, I sold my first piece for $300, and that to me felt like $3 goddamn million, because I'd gone from a really good paid job and having my own money. I was engaged to a guy who worked in the mines, and then all of a sudden my income stopped, but we had more bills than what we ever did with MRIs and specialist appointments. And look, we had private health insurance, but it didn't cover any of it.
You had to pay for it back then, right? Like, because I remember paying for it on a student allowance, which was nothing. And every time it was like $700 or $800, $700 or $800. And I was like, how am I going to afford this?
And I had,
unwell is really expensive.
From memory, my first 12 months, I had 3 MRIs.
Yeah, I would have had 4 or 5 in the first year and a half.
Yeah. And then, so, here we are paying out $800 each time. And then all the neurologists. So I saw a neurosurgeon, an ophthalmologist, the neurologist, and, several visits to all of them. And there was just no money. And I would have to, ask if I could buy something for me or my daughter, and it was just horrible. And then I sold, this one painting for $300, and I'm like, oh my God, people think I'm good enough to buy my artwork and them hand over their hard-earned cash to put my stuff up on the wall. And I was just blown away by that.
How it was inside you.
It was epic. Huge. That felt like $3 million to me. And I've had a few pivotal moments along, the last 12 years where I've been able to buy things. And it's like, oh, wow. I just recently bought a car and without finance. So that to me is not a brand new car, but it was still a pivotal moment that, I am working in the direction that I definitely want to be in. And it's huge. It's massive, because when you've had it all taken away from you by no choice or no fault of your own, it is difficult to come back.
Yeah. And it feels like rock bottom, right? I mean, unfortunately, we need money to live. I mean, I wish we didn't, but it's unfortunately just, it has to be there to pay for those medical expenses, those MRIs, those neurologists, medications.
Food.
Plus food on the table, right?
Yeah,
it's a necessary evil. And when you can't afford that stuff, like, it's stressful. It's
And
really
yeah,
stressful.
we know what MS and stress do together, which is
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
they're
right.
the evil arch enemies of each other. But yeah, so I started painting and selling, and then doing markets and commission work, and then started a website, registered the business, and it's just kind of grown from there. And then I got sick again, and I actually bought this house with the intention of putting in an art studio. But the day that I found out, I got the keys to the house was the day that I found out that I had cancer. And I went, well, I'm still going to renovate. So I did all the way through chemo. I renovated my house. People thought I was nuts. It's like, well, I'm not going to die. That was my attitude. Well, I'm not going to die. I want it all ready for when I'm well again, and then I wanted to give back and teach other people. But through that whole process of going through, chemo, and I had 3 primary cancers at once. People were asking me how did I do it, and I didn't know at the time. And I actually had to sit down with another coach and go, all right, what makes me tick? Why am I the way that I am? Because it had become such an ingrained part of my life. It was second nature now to it all. It's not like I'd made all these conscious decisions. It had just
That's right.
evolved into
But one of your businesses is around resilience, right? Because you have had to show some pretty amazing resilience. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that was when Resilience Mindset was born, which was around about 2018, 19, and everyone wanting to know my secrets. And, I branded myself as a resilience consultant, which has then it changed to a resilience coach, which then changed to a resilience and transformation coach. And now I'm a resilience transformation life coach, because it is effectively just life coaching. But it's all in the branding, I suppose. And I do go out and help a lot of people overcome the adversities that they're facing in their lives, because there isn't an adversity that I pretty much haven't faced, and at least once in doing it. So I'm now a sought after award-winning coach. I've won lots of business awards over the last probably.
You're amazing. You're
Oh,
absolutely amazing, and such an inspiration to everybody, honestly. Like, you've been through hell and back, and you're still a shining star,
I think it's important to also note that I've been to hell and back, but it doesn't mean that I won't go back to hell again at some particular point, because, hey, let's face it, that's life. That we'll always have an adversity just around the corner. But when you have strategies put in place like I do now that are second nature, doesn't mean that you don't hit rock bottom. It just means you don't stay there for an extended period of time.
That's right.
And I still have some really, really fucking shitty days. Like, I'll have a really, really bad day. It'll be a bad mental health day. It'll be a bad body day. But I know that I'm not going to sit in that for a long, extended period of time. And it's
that you need to go get help for that, right? You don't just dwell on it yourself. You seek out to go and get help and support to get through that.
And it's okay to have a sad day. It's okay. Like we have the Are You Okay campaigns and that. Well, some days, no, you're not okay. It doesn't mean that you've got depression. It just means today I'm not okay. And it's also, and I don't know about other people, but I find it grounding to sit in that emotion for a period of time.
Absolutely.
Because then you appreciate when the good things come back around, and they will come back around. But if you are struggling and they're not coming as around as what you would hope them to be, or as fast, and that's when you go and seek external help and counseling, coaching, all of that blah blah stuff. It does make a difference. What about you, Elle?
It really does. I was just going to say as well, like, sometimes talking to even just a family member or a friend can be good, but sometimes they don't quite understand, the intricacies and the details about, such complex cases like MS or cancer or things like that.
You just don't want them to know, if my bladder's playing up, I don't want them to know all the finer details of it. But hey, I'll pay my counsellor to sit there and listen to me whinge about it.
Totally.
God damn it, I've
100%.
wet my pants today. It doesn't happen all the time either, listeners. But, sometimes it does happen. And if I take a little bit too much cannabis oil the night before, there's a fine line on how much I can take of that because it's a muscle relaxant. The next day, my bladder says, hello, girlfriend.
Yeah,
I've lost control.
Yep, that's right. And when you've had as many relapses as I've had to my spinal cord as well, my bladder's shot. Like it's one of my ongoing symptoms that, is always there. My bladder's always going, hello, Allyson, do you remember that I'm here?
Tell me this. When we go to lots of networking events, and I know that you do this because I've watched you do it. You look for where the toilet is.
Absolutely.
That's the first thing. As an MSer, we scope the room. Where's the toilet? Because I'm going to have to make a quick getaway to it at some point.
Yep, absolutely. That definitely happens. And you know what? Like that's just one of the coping mechanisms that we do because otherwise it's like, oh my God, I can't go out in public because what if I wet myself? Like, oh my God, like it's just a freak.
Have you got the public toilet app?
I didn't use it for ages and then I deleted it and I need to put it back on my phone again because it's a very useful little resource to have. Yeah.
Especially if you're in a city and you're unsure of like you haven't been there before and you don't know where all the toilets are.
Yeah.
Most Myers will have a public toilet in their building.
Yep.
There's a tip. So if you're in the city, find Myers and they have a toilet that you can use. Bunnings toilets.
Also, I'm not sure whether you know about this, Justine. It's a card that you can get, which is for invisible illnesses, and you can actually show this card to like a workplace. Like if you're just walking past a shop and you need to use the toilet, you can show it to them, and they are obligated to show you where the toilet is that they can use.
Which is know that you can get a special key to use on at public toilets that are locked, and it'll actually let you in so you don't have to find someone. My biggest bugbear is going to restaurants and they use the bloody disabled toilet as a storage facility. Now, I'll go to the disabled toilet because it's got the handrails to get off the toilet. So I look normal, but I need that extra support in going to the toilet. So if I know that there's the ambient toilet there, I'll use that rather than the disabled one. But if I know that there isn't an ambient toilet there, then I'll pop into the disabled toilets. So, be careful on judging too who comes out of the disabled toilets because as we know, not all disabilities are visible, and pardon me, that person may have a stoma bag or something extra that they need the hand basin right next to the toilet.
I'm just going to go off on a little tangent and tell a little story. So I have a disability car park permit, and it's because I can't walk very far without my legs going spastic and crazy. And I used to park when I worked at Deakin University. I parked in their car park, and I would park in a disabled car park spot. They were doing renovations at one stage, and they had security guards at the car park to let you in to either this area or that area. They were doing like a carpooling system, so you could only park in the front area if you were carpooling. And anyway, so I drive in, and it's right next to where the disabled car park is, and the security guard said, sorry, you're only a single person, you can't park in there. And I said, but I've got a disabled car park permit. And he's like, yeah, all right. And anyway, he watched me. He hated the fact that I was parking in there. He watched me get out of the car, and I could see and hear him mumbling under his breath, like, you shouldn't bloody be parking in there. There's nothing wrong with you. And every time I'd come in, he would be there and he'd be like, no, this chick again. Like as if I'd stolen the pass from somebody else and was using it even though I was perfectly fine. And I was like, goodness me, like I wish he knew. Like I wish you could see it. I wish you could see the pain and the difficulty in walking that I have, but it's just not visible.
No, and speaking of car park permits, I mean, I had to go and prove my disabilities again this week. My disabled car park permit is up for renewal, and it just amazes me. I mean, I know why they do it. It's so people don't abuse the system, and someone dies and they take that disabled car park permit and use it, which is normally family that do that. But it's bloody stressful to, you've got to make a doctor's appointment, fill in the forms online, go in there, have the doctor assess you, and then now I'm in the waiting process to see if I will actually get my disability permit again. And it's like, why do I have to keep justifying to everyone and proving to everyone that I'm fucking disabled? I don't want to be disabled. I'd swap my car park any day of the week, but it's a package deal. You got to take EMS with it. And I've said that to people. We're saying, because I look normal. Well, that could be debatable as well. But, you get out and people will say stuff to you, and it's like, why do I have to defend in parking here? My daughter and I actually got stalked by this, road raged by this woman in a car. I'd just come out of a 4-hour treatment in hospital having an infusion. And we were parked in the disabled car park, and she watched me get into it, and she abused the crap out of me. She pulled up beside the car. It was in Bellarine Street outside Geelong Hospital. And she pulled up beside the car. Her partner was driving, and she's yelling at me that I shouldn't have been parked in there. And I think Ellie was about 15 at the time. So, going back quite a few years ago, she's now 26. Saying that I shouldn't have been parked there. And then Ellie's like, my mum's just had treatment, and Ellie was crying. It was horrific. And then she turned around and said, well, you shouldn't be driving at all. And I'm like, I'm allowed to drive. I just can't walk very far at times when it comes to the parking. Anyway, they followed us in the car and were still hurling abuse out at the traffic lights. They'd pull up beside us. Anyway, I said to Ellie, no. I said, this is not good. I said, we're going straight down to the police station. And we did. We drove to the police station and we walked in. And Ellie had written down the license plate number and everything of this woman. And we'd gone in, and I said to the police, I've just had road rage from this woman. And there was a couple of interesting things. There's no law in Victoria about road rage. All right? Anyone can road rage. It's not illegal. What is illegal is if she got out of the car and hit me or damaged my vehicle. That's where it is. But there was some other law that she'd broken or something by hurling the abuse at us, and the police actually got in contact. Now, she wasn't driving the car. She wasn't very smart. She wasn't driving the car, but her partner was driving the car, but the car was registered in her name. And so she got a warning, and the police told me. But I said to the policeman, I said, look, I've got MS. He goes, I don't need to know what you've got. If the permit's issued in your name, it means that you're entitled to it. You don't need to defend it. Yeah. And look, I haven't even got enough fingers and toes to show you the amount of times that I've been abused for parking in disability.
Unfortunately, it's ignorance. It's lack of knowledge from people that just don't understand that, they think that unless you're in a wheelchair, you can't use those spots.
And I think
that's what the symbol shows, right?
And the problem is that the international sign for disability is someone sitting in a wheelchair. And that's where we run into trouble with, disability toilets and car parks and companion cards and all of the things associated with disability. But don't even get me talking on, when you mention that you're disabled or NDIS, they put the price up on everything. So, What about you, Allyson? How did you get to everheal?
So I suppose it was my rock bottom moment where I didn't know what to do. I had brain fog and fatigue and anxiety and depression that I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, but I can't stay in this space. And if I did, I knew that would be as good as my life would ever be. So I reluctantly changed my diet. And then 3 months later, as you know already, my brain fog went away, my energy was back, and I could, I didn't have anxiety and depression anymore. So I was like, oh my God, how does this work? So I started doing my research because I have a background, PhD So I know about research. So I started researching and found all this amazing information about how food can be used as medicine. And it explained why my symptoms had subsided. And so I was like, I had no idea. I have spent my entire life in the dark about any of this. I never knew anything about gut health and about the impacts of my food choices.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to share this with people. So I started Everheal to help educate people and to support people on their journey because, when we do change our diet, as you would know,
Yes.
it starts to make a bit of a difference, right? Like we start to actually see improvements in our health. Now, it doesn't stop us from having MS, right? It doesn't reverse the damage that's previously done alone. But you know what? It gives us a better quality of life.
That's
and
what I
it
thought.
really helps us. Oh
Yeah.
my God. So, so people come and do my program now, which is a guided program to just learn how to eat better, learn why food's impacting their health, learn to make better choices and learn to actually create some healthy daily habits around that as well that integrates with their lifestyle, because it's not all the same for everybody. Like some people have kids, some people work, some people don't, some people are in a wheelchair, some people don't have a wheelchair but they're disabled. It's different for everybody, but when you can get some support on that road to better health, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, most definitely. And they don't teach it at school. I would have thought that would be a life skill.
I know, right? Why isn't that a class? Like life skills, basic calculations, maybe doing your tax or something ridiculous like that.
How
And
to eat properly, what healthy food is, because it's
I
not being
mean,
educated by parents anymore because the parents haven't learned. So what was that, Elle? You said something else.
Well, they should teach life skill classes where it's like, changing a light bulb and, cleaning and cooking and just basic kind of stuff, which is how do you live? Like when you move out of home, what do you do when you live by yourself?
Tire.
Yeah, exactly. Just stuff like that. So yeah, that would be definitely, we should start at school and, have it as being a little
That's
lesson.
another business idea. No, Justine. 7 is enough.
It is enough, Justine.
There's opportunities around you all the time. There you go, Elle. That's something you could do as an extension of Everheal, is life skill classes.
Skill classes, yeah. Look, we could definitely have a play with that sometime, but yes, it's probably getting to the end of our little session today, right?
Yeah, I think we've got about 5 minutes to go. So is there anything inspiring or that you want to leave the listeners today?
Listen, just enjoy your World MS Day. I know that it's hard to, if you're not in a good place with your MS, it's hard to think of it as a gift or any sort of, positivity around that. But I promise you that, with some of the skills and some of the information that we will provide to you about, diet and about resilience and about stress management and these kinds of things, friendship, communities, exactly, supporting each other, this can make a huge difference to the way that you live. And so for Justine and I, for example, like we've got MS. Yep, we always will. It's not going to change. But the quality of life that we get to live now is just so much better than we could have probably hoped for based on our original diagnosis and the original prognosis, like you'd never work again and, you're going to be in a wheelchair by the time you're 30. That's what I was told. These things can really drag us down. So that's what I would say. I'd say embrace your World MS Day, connect with other people that are going through, similar kinds of things, and just try to live that positive life that you want to live.
Yeah, look, join online support groups if you can't get out into the community, and join the peer supports that are available here in Australia. I'm not too sure about overseas, but there's plenty of ways.
There's heaps of like Facebook groups that are support groups, that are information groups, that are like, there's so many different types. Just go and type in MS and there'll be a bunch of different groups that you can join, all different support groups. You'll find the ones that resonate with you and the ones that, you're not so keen on. It depends really what you're looking for, but there's a range of different ones that provide, a different feel for everybody.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's really important that you don't feel then alone, that you're not walking this journey by yourself, especially if you're not getting support at home or you live by yourself. It can make the difference from a good day to a bad day. Absolutely. Or a really bad day to an average day. So, anything is possible if you set your mind to it. You just have to, in my regards, it's like, okay, well, I can kind of remember now what my old life was like. But, I haven't given up. I've just modified and accepted. I think acceptance is a huge thing in your journey, and you may not be up to the acceptance part of it. We know that Christina Applegate isn't. She's still very angry in having MS, but you have to go through those stages of grief with it. And once you get to the acceptance of it, you don't have to like it. Acceptance doesn't mean that you have to like it. Acceptance just means that it is part of your life. Doesn't mean that it is actually your whole life either. It doesn't define who you are. You are still your own person. It's just, this thing that may sit on your shoulder or may sit down your spine, or it may sit in your brain or wherever it is that's caused the damage. And you just have to modify your life to that degree. But if
you're not coping with it yourself, just seek extra help, because there's a million different resources out there and different people that can actually help you. So don't feel like you are alone on that journey, and don't be afraid to just ask somebody for help.
Yeah, because asking for help is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness.
Absolutely.
Definitely a sign of strength. So I think we've probably covered a little bit today. Next time we'll go into a little bit more depth on what Allyson does in regards to her food, and we'll find something that I can chat about. That'll be next week. If you've got anything that you want us to cover, please just email us. I'm at hello@justinemartin.com, and Allyson is
info@everheal.com.au.
Or you can find us on any social media platform. I think I've got about 10 different social media ones out there. Just Google Justine Martin Geelong or Justine Martin MS, and I pop up everywhere, and you can contact me through that. And we're happy to discuss if you've got a particular question that you want answered in there as well. So,
absolutely.
Final word, Elle?
Look, we're just here to support you guys, and I hope that, some of what we've talked about today, somebody might be listening going, oh my God, I feel that too. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why we wanted to do this, just share our journeys and, hope that it can make a difference to somebody else's journey as well.
Most definitely. So listeners, until next time, we hope you stay healthy. Oh God, that was a brain fart moment. We hope that you stay healthy, and we'll talk to you all again soon.
With over 11 years public speaking expertise, Justine thrives on delivering a powerful and empowering keynote to audiences of all sizes. From a packed room of 500 people to an intimate gathering of 50 people, Justine will command the room with her inspiring journey and engaging anecdotes. Email hello@justinemartin.com.au to book Justine for your next event.